You almost needed it. You didn't bring anything.
No, I have stuff.
I have stuff. So you know what I found? What I usually do is I pull up the Norris blog because they've got a great. They consult. I don't know how they do it, but they've got some kind of like Spider or News Consolidator. They'll usually have like 10 posts per day. So I'll do the whole. Like I'll do 7 days. I'll go through all the posts and click the ones that I think are newsworthy. And what I found, which was interesting, is I've been hearing anecdotally from like half a dozen people throughout in different situations about the market slowing down, and then I've found all these articles saying about the market slowdown now. So it's not just anecdotal; it's actually being written about. Well, some is still anecdotal because who are these guys? What do they know about anything? But anyway.
Okay, who's going to start?
I'll start.
You'll start? Okay.
What do you got?
Well, I got sensitive. Burnt heart Erica this night.
You gotta talk softly into it.
You're okay?
I can hear okay, just when I touch it,
Oh,
It's squiggles
it
or
gets, it
crackles.
went on and off.
well,
for a second.
yeah, that's
It's very
very
crackle
sensitive.
pop.
Yeah.
She's sensitive.
Yes, she is. Okay, are we ready? That's going, right? Can you see the numbers going at the bottom?
I can't see anything.
Not at all. Are you trying to test her?
Yeah, I know.
I think I don't have my galoshes on.
Yes. Okay, we are all set. Hit this bad boy. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right. Away we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on Talk 910. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm proud to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, one of California's fastest growing mortgage investment firms. Rob Spinoza of RPM Mortgage, and Kathryn Harris, CPA of Parati & Karate. It's a full house today.
That's right.
Not a flush,
Fuller
but a full
house.
house. Yes. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during this show. The vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located about 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. Those vacations are free. They'll only request a $100 cleaning fee, to cover the housekeeping expenses. And today's trivia theme is just random trivia.
Not again.
Not again. Yes, I got to keep in suspenders. All kinds
I only
of
got
things
1
here.
out of 3 last week.
That's
We'll
pretty
see.
good for random. That's
Considering
That's
it's
not
wide
too
open.
bad. So since we got a full house day, today's going to be very busy and very good. Kathryn, we're going to start off with you.
just some articles that I came across. I thought was funny because they both kind of led themselves to the same conclusion, same type of economy that's happening.
Okay.
So, and you would know this a little bit with Rob and everyone here, is that especially in the Bay Area, there's been a lot of bidding wars when it comes to houses, and usually if you price it right, almost pricing it right is pricing it low, and then it goes into a bidding war. And I came across this article that the bidding war is now coming to rents and coming to apartments.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Bidding wars for
So there's a new company called RentBerry. And sure to put, the article goes that RentBerry is sure to put prospective renters in a tailspin, that it is now bringing rent bidding services to the apartment world, and now able to post post an apartment for rent, a house for rent, and I imagine accept applications, but in that application process, you're going to put what you want to pay.
In a way, that's marketing brilliance, but I wonder if it's a little bit too late for that business model, because which what we're hearing and what we'll talk about later in the show is just that the real estate market in general and the rental market is beginning to see peaks and maybe even coming down a little bit. So, but I find that interesting. I would still think that certain neighborhoods in San Francisco, probably where there's a strong demand for housing and it's hard to find apartments, probably can still get away with something like that. But I'm wondering about how big a market service.
You're right. They are almost like 2-3 years late, at least in the San Francisco Bay Area market.
Well,
for it.
do they? So is this company? Are they aggregating the bids and then? So I know when you go to buy a house, for example, you'll have a listing agent, and then if you get multiple offers, they may counter back some of the offers and say, "Okay, guys, come up to your highest and best offer." So how does it give you any perspective on how they treat that in the context of rental, and I don't even know if that.
Or is it just a line item saying, would you like to offer more?
Yeah.
Asking- yes.
How
Asking
much?
$5,000 a month,
Yes.
would you like to offer more?
A typical rental process of people filling out applications, paying non-refundable application fees, and not even getting their desired apartment, let alone a simple callback.
That's how they're making money, is off the
That won't
application
end
fees.
well. Yeah.
Yes, that's where that company's already there.
That's one of those like those auction companies where you can buy a TV for $1 or something, but you have to put in like $10,000 worth of bids for it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say you have to pre-fund an account, and then there's a certain amount that they.
Well, what they do is they keep charging you every time you bid,
Oh, I
and
get
so
it.
it's like it's like I don't think I like this model.
Well, I don't know. I think what we've seen here is that the rental market is, and again, this is the Greater Bay Area. Certainly, I've seen it in the East Bay, Oakland area, Marin County, San Francisco. The demand for rentals is still quite high. But
Yeah.
what I question is, and Mark, you may be able to speak to this. I think the further we get away from the downturn, the less rental demand there would be, unless the amount of rental units doesn't keep up with the population growth. You know what I mean by that? Because rental demand was high in the peak years like 2013, 2014 and stuff you're talking about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
But a lot of that still had a spillover effect for people who couldn't otherwise qualify for a loan because they were within the period. The
Short sales
season.
and
Yeah,
foreclosures,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now I wonder, as they get out of that, does that influence the renter pool?
That's a good question. I would almost think there's almost that at play. There's the millennium at play. Usually they've got a lovely thing called student debt that they have to account for. So I think there's just so many factors that have played a part, or sometimes now not playing a part, like the one you just said.
Yeah.
Those people who couldn't qualify for a loan 3 years ago now may qualify, given a better job market, a bit more. They can be more aggressive in their. I've seen many people who are going to their employer and saying, "Hey, I got a job offer."
Well, what's the pain point when you do tax returns for folks? Those that are renting, what's the sentiment amongst them? Are they frustrated with the fact that they cannot get a mortgage interest deduction, or that they should be getting? What are you hearing just
A
on the
lot
street?
of the ones that are usually who don't own a home are in their 20s and their 30s, and they're not ready to settle down.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It goes beyond the tax deduction.
Of course.
It's just
Yeah.
I think it's people who lived in a home before and had the tax deduction that were converted to renters,
Yeah.
maybe not voluntarily during the real estate meltdown. Those are the ones that really miss the mortgage interest deduction because they may be paying more in rent than they paid for their mortgage and they get zero deduction.
Right.
That's
Yes.
a real shell shock.
And I'm coming to that as well. And these usually are people who had a hard time and in those last 5-10 years
Yeah.
during a peak period of their life where they're supposed to be owning a home, building up equity, saving for retirement. So they're now in their let's say 50s, early 60s, and they have so many buckets to fill
Yeah.
that they're so late to the game, and it's so difficult to find enough cash to pay for the mortgage, for a down payment, pay off credit cards, save for retirement.
And those people you were mentioning, they're upset because their income's probably too high. They don't get the renter's deduction of $60.
That's $60 a month.
Is that what still is? Is it
Yeah,
$60?
something about that.
like
Yes.
That is nuts.
Schedule H.
I'm not even going to ask what that is.
But you were talking about, Kathryn, this new service that allows you to offer higher rents. But we are. I think the market is seeing now. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes here. We are seeing signs that the ever increasing housing prices and rents because of tight inventory. The tight inventory hasn't changed,
That's
but
right.
you can only raise prices
can't,
so
yeah.
high, and before you get to a point where you've gone beyond the affordability index and people's willingness to do what it takes to either buy or rent, and they just simply find alternatives.
It's back to that supply and demand chart.
So while we're talking about supply and demand, I did a little study on the properties that were on the real estate broker tour this week in Marin County. Now, Marin is not, for listeners that aren't in Marin is not a big county. We had a total of, maybe about less than 200 properties on the market came on this week or that are on the market for sale. In analyzing those, what I determined was that 32% of the properties in Marin County listed for sale are less than $1 million. Okay, 32% are less than $1 million, only a third, but 33% are more than $2 million.
That's
So a full third of our limited inventory is above $2 million, which speaks to the points you just both made about how high can you push price points.
Right. So I got a great article here titled "Silicon Valley Mansions Linger on Market in Real Estate Slowdown."
Oh.
Boo-hoo, right?
What did they call a mansion?
That's
Here's a custom-built home in the heart of California's Silicon Valley had to cut its price by $500,000 last week after sitting on the market for the last 60 days. Turns out it's a 6-bedroom, 5-bath house in Palo Alto, just blocks away from Stanford University and the homes of co-founder Larry Page and Steve Jobs' old home.
But how much was the original asking price?
$7.5 million.
Yeah.
So not even a 10% reduction on that. Okay, tell you what, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here. Before we do, got a little mention here. Right, but by the way, I did say renter credit, didn't I? So the renter's deduction is
it is a credit.
It is a credit. Okay. The Napa Valley Jazz Getaway is one of California's premier wine and jazz festivals in the heart of wine country. It's a 5-day celebration from June 8th to 12th. Check them out at www.jazzgetaway.com for tickets. Okay, so here's our first trivia question, random trivia. Who did Pocahontas marry? All right, the first caller with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190 to answer that question. All right, pretty easy. Who did Pocahontas marry?
Yeah, for all of us with kids who watched that movie 100 times, right?
That's right.
That.
Something about blowing in the wind or something like that. Okay, stay with us. The Best of Investing. I'll be right back. That's a good song. I like that song. Okay.
They get there.
This one?
Yeah.
This was the stats that I just read.
Oh. I thought there was something new.
I imagine those below $1 million turn quick.
Well, it depends where. So a lot of those are, a lot of that is the Novato inventory, which is single family homes, and that'll move quick. But yeah, I mean, Santa Fe, Novato, and condos. So that's not a lot. What's really scary is how the price point is escalated from the low ones. It's jumped right now to 1.6, 1.7 on like typical houses. It's just crazy.
When you showed the median there, which off and on for the last couple of years will hit $1 million in Marin. But I forget which Silicon Valley city it is. It might be Palo Alto. It's $2.5 million.
Yeah, probably Palo Alto, Menlo Park.
Yeah, it's the most expensive of the median price in the nation. But that is just such an aberration. Although they do have crazy valuations down there, unsustainable. That's where there's a real estate
That's
bubble.
a big bubble.
It is a bubble. That one's going to pop. I don't think there's a bubble in most other bigger.
Well, not nearly as significant. But yeah, and you're starting to see it with a lot of the valuations, the devaluations, a lot of the startup companies.
So what do you got? What else you got, Rob?
Well, I think we could, if you want to continue on that, what we were just talking about, the decline or what could cause that to happen.
Sure.
I've got an article on that. I can touch on median home prices.
What else you got there?
Well, mine was kind of, which is I think is where it's funny. I think you're starting to see where we used to see same information. We're starting to see contradictory. So this one is as rents are rising, more investors are turning to landlords. So it's kind of those are the two articles that I was reading that were relating to a strong economy. But I think they're looking at the past, not necessarily some of the futures. They're looking at the last 7 years, where from 1 year ago, it's not nearly as strong. So it kind of leads to.
I think we can continue on that just because, this article specifically, California Home Sales Weekend, because prices are higher than most potential buyers can qualify to borrow. The problem will worsen if mortgage rates rise.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about the broader
Who
economy.
do I go to?
You can go to me, and if you want, start it there.
You ready?
Sure.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn, Rob Spinoza, and Kathryn Harris. Who did Pocahontas marry?
One of the
His first name was John, right?
John Smith.
No, not John Smith.
What?
It was John Rolfe.
Oh,
It was
did
not
they
a trick-
did they
it's
change
not
it?
Yeah, he changed his name just for the show.
I think they changed it for the
No,
movie.
it's funny because we always thought of John Smith and
Ah.
Pocahontas, but John Rolfe was actually the guy who married.
Wow.
John Smith was just a good friend, I think. A very good friend.
Yeah.
Maybe he changed his last name from Rolf to Smith. I don't know. Okay, so
He was
Rob,
hyphenated.
before we get to you, Rob, I just want to make a quick mention here also for imagine your child cannot hear or speak. What do? Where do you go? Weingarten Children's Center provides innovative and effective services to children with hearing or communication difficulties. So they're having a golf tournament on Monday, June 6th in San Mateo at the Peninsula Golf and Country Club. And you can buy tickets, support them. It'd be really cool. You can call 650-483-1832. All right? So, Rob, we want to go back to you.
Well, we were talking about something that I end up, hearing about day in and day out when people are looking to buy a home, when people are getting into a sales negotiation, looking at potentially a counteroffer from a seller to say, well, can you go any higher, looking at competing against other buyers, et cetera. And Mark brought up a point about how high can prices go when you're only dealing with that side of the equation. Some of the things that we look at in our industry, and we had some evidence of this earlier in the week, where the Federal Reserve sort of meeting minutes discussed the potential of a June rate increase, which I think is unlikely, but they gave enough information to spook the markets. And yesterday we saw a real strong bond market sell-off, which means higher interest rates. So, buyers that are on the fence now did see a slight increase in their rates. But you couple that with higher prices, and a lot of people are wondering, where does it stop? How far can it go? What are you seeing in the market and things like that? And I think there are some other elements of any housing market that we deal with on a routine basis about where I think everybody's concerned about a bubble, right? That's the word, the catchphrase. Do you think we're in another bubble? I think by and large the answer is no, and I think the reason for that.
Most economists are agreeing with that statement.
Yeah, and what we tend to forget is that the last bubble is not the definition of a bubble. The last bubble was a credit bubble, whereby buyers could buy with financial instruments that didn't require a strict qualification. That is in place now. So you're not going to see an unwinding of things that just was based on fantasy like before. So you start looking at some of the other variables. You look at what are people paying for the house, how are they qualifying for the loans, et cetera. And I think it ties to the broader economy, which Mark, what Mark just said, most economists agree that for the most part, the economy is doing fairly well. Employment's good, things like that, inflation's low, rates likely to stay low for a while.
No one's predicting an imminent recession on the horizon, or if they are, they're predicting 2018 or 2019, which pushes out far enough that they can kind of hedge and then change their mind.
Right, exactly.
Slow growth, slow and steady.
So we're in this kind of purgatory where the Fed is looking at it like, okay, well guys, if the economy is as good as we think it is, then why aren't we raising rates? And then you got the other crowd on the other side saying, well, if you raise rates, the economy's not going to be as good as we think it is. So
in other words, keep rates exactly where they are for the next 20 years.
No doubt about low rates fueling a strong housing market. Yeah. So.
And then anecdotally, we've been talking the last couple of weeks on the show about how I've been hearing from listing agents, brokers, and others that their market is slowing. I've heard this in Marin, I've heard it in San Francisco, I've heard it in San Jose, and I've heard it in Southern California. So as I'm doing my my favorite blog post research for the show tonight, I actually came across a couple of articles indicating that it's not just the Bay Area that is seeing a slowdown in the market, not only at the high end, but all across the board, but nationwide. And so some are struggling to kind of find the blame. So so one article here says what's presumed to be the hottest buying season of the year, again, the spring buying season, where we're in right now, I guess it's disappointing all over the country, not just in the Bay Area. It's not shaping up. And so one article here.
Is that all relative? Is that compared to the last 3 years?
Yeah,
That's where I think we were so accustomed. Us humans have a tendency to forget what happened and what was average, normal.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting so nervous that we're coming back down. We can never sustain a growth of 10%. So this slowdown.
Well, it's not so much the growth. I'm not talking about a slowdown in appreciation. I'm talking a slowdown in real estate activities. The buyers are not coming to the storefront in today's seller's market. And so here's one article that said and this is a nationwide article, he believes that it's a perfect storm of a stagnant economy and employment growth that has slowed, people who, soft economy and people who are not moving up because they're not seeing increases in their pay and lack of upward movement. Another one is
Well,
what-
so I think what counters that, Mark, is that you then, but when they face the housing market, they are seeing all that pressure upwards. So they're saying, okay, well, I'm kind of in this, not holding pattern, but my situation is fairly stable, but the market has been historically, recent history, been pushed, well beyond that, and I don't know that I'm in that race. I'm seeing buyer fatigue in that sense.
Yeah. Here another article says, as the spring home buying season struggles to lift off, some people are pointing to tight credit as one reason to blame.
I would agree.
And so this is a guy who's in the lending industry who says the loan process is very difficult right now, thanks to TRID and the new Dodd-Frank restrictions. There's a lot of regulation that mortgage companies have had to absorb in the last several years. So they're dealing with more complex types of situations, and it adds more costs to the transaction. So we've got mortgage companies that are struggling, trying to find kind of a steady state of efficiency, is what he calls it. So that
the TRID, the Tiller RESPA integrated disclosures, which to the layperson basically is acts like a right of rescission on a purchase.
5-letter word there.
Yeah, it acts like a right of rescission on a purchase where you get your closing disclosure that hopefully is the know before you owe document. So you've been in the process for 30 days or so, and now you get this closing disclosure that should reiterate everything you already know about your loan, but you got to sit on it 3 days before you go in and sign. The regulation says you may not sign your documents, even if you've got a gun to your head. You can't sign them until 3 days go by. What this is doing, pragmatically speaking, on the lender side, is there is just so much back and forth with the title company, with the escrow officers, with the buyers, the sellers, to get all these numbers to line up exactly right. At the end of the day, all you're doing is putting the consumers back against the wall and making them freak out, stress out about their closing. Right, and the volume of emails and forms and things that go around about this to get somebody into a house. I had a borrower the other night. English was not their first language, but they're buying a home over in the East Bay, and they finally cried uncle. They basically called 8:30 at night and said, "We just don't understand any of these documents," because it's telling the way the numbers are represented on these disclosures is so confusing. Even if English is your first language, and they call up and they say, "But can you help me understand this?" And that's what you're seeing across the industry.
Yeah.
Just,
So
people,
what do? You sit down with them? And
yeah, you walk them through it and you go, "Let's pretend this is a balance sheet," and you just say, "These are the debits, these are the credits. This is your loan, this is your earnest money, this is your your down payment," and you simplify it. And then that's what our industry has done a very poor job of. All this regulation, all these disclosures, aim to protect the consumer. They make it more difficult to understand what's really important.
Okay, tell you what, we're going to cut to another commercial break. When we come back, we got some very interesting emails here for our hosts. All right, so want to make a little mention here again for the Alcatraz Cruise Company. All right, so Alcatraz is the only company offering transportation and tours to Alcatraz Island, and in 2015 was voted the #1 landmark in America according to TripAdvisor. For the lowest prices guaranteed, always choose AlcatrazCruises.com. Nice and simple. 415-981-7625. All right, here's our second commercial trivia question. Which actor had the 4th wedding in the movie 4 Weddings and a Funeral? You have to know the movie to get this one. All right, call 888-912-1190 to answer that question. Don't touch that dial. The best of investing. I'll be right back.
Can't remember the actor's name.
Do you remember the face?
Character, yeah, I do.
Okay, well, that's good.
The same
I only
guy
know one
who got
character.
busted for prostitution.
Yes.
Hugh Grant.
That's right.
Yes. That's it.
So, I was right.
You're right.
Well, it's the only
That's the only one I
character-
knew.
Exactly.
That's, I
the
know.
only
You
one.
know what I mean, too.
I'm like, it can't be him if Everett's doing a trivia question.
Exactly.
It's
I
gotta be him.
have to
gotta
make
be
it.
like-
I have to make it easy once in a while.
Jason.
That's our one. That's our
somebody or
freebie.
other, it's not even-
Yeah, it's funny. I'm doing the refi with First Republic's the only bank that's going to.
Oh, we were talking about that last
It's
time.
just ridiculous. I think I told you that.
Well, you gave me the
literally got-
story, and then they came back to you, and they said, "But you can do it this way. You can do the whole thing again."
Correct.
Yeah.
And now what they're doing also is they're making me put 10% of the entire loan in a non-interest bearing account.
Ugh.
Well, That's $160,000.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
You gotta look at all of that stuff in
Correct.
terms of what's the true cost,
Yeah.
because there's an opportunity cost that you're losing on that 160 that kind of equates to
Correct.
the cost
But I
of
get a
the
30
mortgage.
basis points benefit.
Okay.
On just the second mortgage. So it's
Yeah, but you
it's
can
a
get
little,
8%.
How long you have
I
to
know.
how long you have to keep it in the account?
well, they said 2 years, but it can be an average. So I said, well, that's okay because I can dip
Well,
in.
2 years, you're not going to earn a lot.
No,
unless you're holding your
and
notice.
forever,
8%.
I get that 30 basis points thing. So that's
8%.
not the worst thing. That's not the worst thing.
You just
But I
lost.
literally got turned down because I have too much with this guy. Can you believe
Too
that?
many short-term mortgages
Yeah,
as,
they go,
assets.
I said, so wait a minute. You're telling me I would have been better off to lie and say I own less assets and have less income. The guy kind of laughed. He goes, yeah.
Because it messed up your ratios.
No. You know, I think the only thing I can think of is they
Mortgages,
assume.
notes, bonds payable in less than a year.
Yeah,
That's what they do.
No, I know, but I said, okay, let's assume they're all zero. It's worthless.
But it's nothing, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
assume it's worthless.
All it was is asset.
Yeah,
There's no
but
liability
but
to
I
it.
think,
They hit you for the debt.
well, there's no
Hit you.
debt.
They hit you for that notes, bonds, mortgages payable in less than a year. They hit you for that 100%.
They
I
assume
know.
that's
I'm saying assume hit me
Yeah.
for 120% of it.
Yeah.
It's worth zero.
Right.
But and the only thing I can think of, this is the only thing that makes any kind of sense. Maybe they assume that I rely on all of that income for a standard of living. And if something were to go wrong with that income, then I would be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Right.
No,
That would make a little bit of sense. That's the only thing I think of. Because
They basically give you no asset, but assume that you have the debt, which is the
But there's
debt
no
to,
debt?
which is the debt is to you. So
yeah, there's no debt.
Yeah.
It's just an asset.
Huh.
So in other words, I can have a diamond ring, but if I have a diamond and a ruby, no, that's forget it. That's worse. Okay. Okay. On that note,
Bankers.
bankers. Yeah.
It's tough in that regard. It is. Those are the tough ones.
You guys ready?
Yep.
There you go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host. Mark Hoff joins me, along with Rob Spinoza and Kathryn Harris. Second trivia question: which actor had the fourth wedding in the movie Four Weddings and a Funeral?
Kathryn got that right.
You grant.
Hugh Grant. Or there was a movie.
How's
What was the movie where he gets a huge? No, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of
Yeah,
something.
be
else.
careful talking about
Yes.
him.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
It's gonna go to-
Don't confuse
It's gonna
real
go to.
life
It's gonna
with
go to a bad
movies.
place.
Actually, it had nothing to do with him. It was one of those night at the museum, with Ben Stiller. It was the second one, and it had to do with
Huey Lewis. We'll go with
Hugh
that.
Jackman.
yes.
Okay.
It's all
Yeah,
huge.
Do I get a prize
huge-
for that
yeah,
one?
yeah.
That's not a trivia
The
question.
guy says
Jackman.
huge Ackman. That doesn't even make sense. Huge Ackman. He goes, no. Anyway. All right. Here we go with some emails.
For those of you still listening.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Okay, so Mark,
We peaked.
we're just going to go down the line here. So a question comes up. This is obviously for Mark. What can I do if I can't qualify for investing in your fund, but I want to participate in deeds of trust?
Well, actually, a couple of things you could do. Number one, you could participate in individual notes and deeds of trust because, well, the question was, if I don't qualify, what does that mean? So we have a mortgage pool fund that pays a little over 8% right now and has been for the last 3 years, and we use the funds in that mortgage pool fund to make and fund real estate loans. We are required by the type of fund that we set up. Regulations state that we can only accept accredited investors. And accredited investor is defined as someone who has $1 million net worth exclusive of the equity in their primary residence, or they make $200,000 a year or more if they're an individual, or $300,000 a year or more if they're married. So not everyone qualifies because a lot of people have, majority or a big chunk of their net worth in their primary residence. So that disqualifies a few people, but I've gotten quite a few phone calls from people who have a couple $100,000 they'd like to put to work in maybe an alternative investment. That's another word for describing investing in mortgages or mortgage pool funds. And you can, though, you do not need to qualify to invest in an individual note. But I will say, if you're looking at putting maybe $25,000 or $50,000 to work, that in the Bay Area can be tough to do because we make loans. Our average loan size at Pacific Private Money is $400,000, and we would generally prefer 1 or 2, maybe 3 people at most to participate in funding that loan. And if you're looking to put, under $100,000 to work in a note, you're going to have to look around or work with somebody who maybe does loans outside of the Bay Area where the loan amounts are smaller, or who doesn't mind fractionalizing, say, maybe a $200,000 loan between maybe 4 people at $50,000 each. So again, if that sounds a little bit complicated, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you can of course give us a call at Pacific Private Money at 415-883-2150, or go to our website. Best way to find us, pacificprivatemoney.com.
Very good. Rob, we
Hey.
go right next door here.
Oh, cool.
Okay, here we are.
All right.
I'm undecided between a fixed rate loan or an ARM. Which do you recommend?
Okay, so this comes up a lot now, and it comes up even more when you start to see rates move higher because a lot of people are focused. I think, let me preface it by saying that most people like the stability of a 30-year fixed rate loan. That's the most common product by far in the market when you're talking about a residential home loan. And for many people, it serves their needs best because a lot of folks just don't want to think about their loan changing in any way. Okay, I have my mortgage payment, I know how to budget for it, it's never going to change. If I sell the house, so be it, whatever. So 30-year fixed rates, for most people, if you're one of those that just won't sleep at night thinking about any adjustability on your loan, I recommend you go with 30, 15-year fixed if you're interested in paying off the loan further quicker. You can afford the payment, the higher payment. But a 30 fits needs of most people. From there, you get a lot of folks in our markets here where prices are higher, affordability can be a concern. You'll see them do hybrid ARMs, which are 7-year or 10-year ARMs. What that really means is that the loan is a 30-year term in its entirety, but after the fixed period at the beginning, 7 or 10 years, in the case that I just mentioned, it converts to an adjustable rate mortgage. So what are the pros? The pros of those are that you are getting a much lower interest rate in many cases at a 7-year than you are on a 30-year fixed, and you're hoping that you will refinance or sell or do something else with the loan before it reaches the
And that
adjustable
happens a
rate.
lot. Isn't the average, 5 years that people stay in their house?
You know, the average is, on the loan side of it, is a little bit skewed, I think, in my opinion, because we've been in a low-rate environment and you have been able to kind of change things over. So, but the interesting stat that I found on that is I went through the National Association of Realtors statistics and found that only 24% of all buyers will be in the same home after year 14. So forget about their financing. If you buy a home, the likelihood you're going to be in it 14 years from now is very, very small, okay? And so I think for most people, again, you got to look at it, what's right for you, but a 30-year fixed is not a very expensive, but can be an expensive insurance policy to give you that peace of mind. And so I encourage people to look at all their options and weigh them out and think about what best fits their needs and where they are in their life.
Very good. How do people get a hold of you?
So I can be reached on the Best of Investing website. My bio is on there. I work out of the Mill Valley office of RPM Mortgage. We're right on the 101. Phone number is 415-367-5959. We have at rpm-mtg.com. Happy to give service.
Very good. All right. So, Kathryn, you are the CPA, so we have a tax question here for you. What's the difference between donating to a regular organization like a church as compared to a private foundation? Can I still get a full deduction?
You do get a full deduction when you make a donation to a private foundation compared to a church or another nonprofit. I'm making an assumption that when you're making a donation to a private foundation, you're often you want some what the difference is that usually when you give money to a private foundation is that you can exercise some control in the future.
Okay.
So oftentimes, the largest one here is the Marine Community Foundation, is where there is an individual who may come into they sold their home and have a huge gain,
Right.
and they're set for life, they're content, but they want to make a huge donation, but don't want to necessarily don't know who to give it to, want to give it over a period of years. They'll make the donation to the Marine Community Foundation or a similar foundation. You could even set up, if you should desire, your own private foundation. And you make that donation to the private foundation, get the donation, the deduction that this year, so offsetting your taxable income, your gain. But what Marine Community Foundation and the like have, or when you set up a private foundation, is that they will give you what is called a donor advised fund, or if you have your own private foundation, you obviously control the board, you get the opportunity. You just defer the payment to nonprofits or the allocation to other nonprofits to the future years. So oftentimes when you make a donation to the private, to a donor advised fund, you want the write-off in one particular year. You just want to hold it and have the ability to give it to other nonprofits in future years.
Is there any limitation as to the tax deduction?
When you make donations to nonprofits, there is a limit there's exceptions to the rules, up to 50% of your income.
For regular,
For regular.
But private foundations have a lesser one.
There's a little bit less one. What I've also seen, I mean, you can go into some. We've actually had a case where somebody was able to write off and get 100% of their income written off by a donation. It was
Wow.
the IRS actually rejected it, and they argued the fact and said, no, you've given us a ruling before or an opinion that said we can do that. It was an amazing exception.
Because ordinarily it's 50%.
Ordinarily 50%. It was it had to do with land. I think it was land and up in the Mendocino coast with some trees in it. I was like
Trees,
amazing.
okay.
It was. We were like, why?
As long as there are trees
where
involved,
there
it's a bigger
wasn't.
donation. I
100%
like that.
deduction for trees.
What I want to tell you is that what's more important, at least for most individuals, when it comes to donations, is how do you donate? Do you donate? Do you go and sell stock, get the cash, and then write the check to the nonprofit?
No.
No, there's different ways to give to nonprofit, and the different ways give you a different benefit on your taxes.
So what I'm guessing here is if you give the stock, then you get a different basis. Is that what happens?
Well, you don't have to pay. You'll let you pay.
Okay.
He knows that. Yes, he's done this before.
Why
He
does
said,
he know this?
It's a good thing to know. You get the donation based on the fair market value, the date of the donation,
Got
but you
it.
don't have to pay the taxes on the appreciation.
Okay.
That's one of the few things that's actually like, hey,
A good
Congress
deal.
says, it's
Yeah,
not a bad deal.
every
Very
once in
few
a while,
of those.
yes, exactly. It's same way is you can also give money out of your IRA. So if you have an RMD,
Right.
and I often suggest that to people who have a
Good point.
specific cause that they really want, they make those donations yearly. So hey, why don't you consider making that out of your
Do you
IRA
do you
account?
suggest the Edward Brown Fiji Island Fund?
You know what? If I can get your exemption,
Yeah.
I will be happy to
Yeah,
recommend
1, 2, 3, 4,
that.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
He's working on that.
I'm working on that one. Yes.
It's still in the you know what? It's hung up at the IRS with all the other
It's
nonprofit
in the
applications.
it's in the storage facility in Fiji. It has to go back
Yeah,
first.
that's right.
It's going to be there for a couple of weeks. Then I'll bring it back.
Well, I'll come back with a good tan.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yes. So a good one there, and that one again, you don't have to pay the taxes on your RMD, and you don't.
Interesting.
So options out there for you.
Very good. Okay, we're going to cut to our last commercial break. Before we do, got a couple of mentions here. First of all, there is a bank that is paying 1%. It's not close to Mark's 8% that he's paying on his fund, but
10,000% more
yeah,
than the 0.001.
exactly. But how many banks do you know that are paying 1% that FDIC insured? Okay, but I'm not going to give it on the air. You have to call our 888-912-1190 number, or you can email edward@bestinvesting.com, and I will share that secret with you. Okay, so here is our last trivia question. What science deals with the behavior of projectiles? I always think of my kids when they were babies and I was changing a diaper when I think of projectiles, but we're not talking that.
Fear of projectiles?
If there's a science,
Okay.
in science,
Not the fear, the science.
Oh,
yeah,
the science,
the
not the fear
science
of it.
that deals with the behavior of projectiles, like chemistry or physics. So it's
There's a
There's a name
behavior.
for it.
I didn't even
yeah,
know there was a
there's
behavior.
a science that deals
Okay.
with the behavior of projectiles. Okay. Well, when you hear the answer, you'll go, oh yeah, I got
Right.
it now. Yes. Okay. So anyway, call 888-912-1190 to answer that question, and don't touch that dial. Why? Because the best of investing will be right back. We are going to ask Mark about deal of the week.
Cool.
All right. Stay with us. I have to tell you, we have deal of the week.
I didn't bring one, but
Oh,
I'll
Got one?
ponder one.
It's like pressure.
Here.
Jack can fill in on that if you don't have any.
Oh, I've got one.
Got one?
Yeah, good.
We had a guy just 90%, $1.1 million purchase price, Southern California. all business funds as 100% owner of an S corp, and we use this business accounts for getting loans. Typically, they don't like that. They don't. It's business funds. You can't. With this investor, we can use business funds 100% of the account.
And you said, and it's a 90% LTV?
10% down.
There must be a lot of equity in that S corp.
Yeah, really.
It's like nothing but cash.
Actually,
They said it works with this investor.
They don't even
RPM.
Nothing. Well, it's a jumbo investor that we have delegated authority. So basically,
Wow.
they say here are our guidelines. Your underwriters have to write loans to these specific parameters, and then deliver it to them. If it checks out, then they're buying a loan. But we don't look at the equity position of the partnership or the S corp. We're looking at the K1s, the income, the distributions.
12 minutes and 9 seconds left.
There is now, if the income is not distributed, we were talking about this the other day, if the income is not distributed anymore on a K1, then they start looking at the liquidity.
Yeah, because you can monkey with that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine you would have to distribute if it's.
We see a lot of K1s where the income's not distributed. We see a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's ordinary income,
Yeah.
but now they're saying it's got to be guaranteed payment to partner, it's got to be distributed.
Which actually makes sense.
No, I know, we were talking about
That's
that.
what I would think of
Yeah.
if it's.
Okay. Ready? Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, Edward Brown here along with Mark Hoff, Rob Spinoza, and Kathryn Harris. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Okay, here our last trivia question. What science deals with the behavior of projectiles?
Ballistics.
Yes.
Nice.
you're
I love how he.
You're
I
awesome.
came with confidence right there.
yeah,
Well,
really.
that's- No,
Wow, you must be a ballistic expert. Want to make a quick mention here for the Mother Lode. I love that, the Mother Lode. Mother Lode River Center. They've been running river trips from wild to wild on the American River, California's most popular whitewater rafting destination. Anyone ever rafted on the American River? Awesome.
Never happened.
that's over.
Completely
Sounds
awesome.
great though. Sounds like.
Yeah, they still have it, especially with the rains that we've had, they've had some good flow there. So book your trip today by calling 530-626-4187 or go to MALOAD, like in other words, mother load, right? MALOAD.com. See you on the river. All right,
Cool.
so Mark, give us a deal of the week.
So at Pacific Private Money, we make privately funded real estate loans for people who can't qualify for bank financing, or maybe it's just a situation where a bank typically is not going to say yes. And so I've got a situation here that's pretty interesting. You've heard me talking about bridge loan financing that we do for primary residences. This is not for people who understand commercial real estate. You hear the term bridge loan, you think, oh, it just means it's a short-term loan. Well, in residential real estate, we call a bridge loan a loan that basically helps you bridge from your existing home to the home you want to buy next. And what happens a lot in this market is that people would rather buy the home they want to move into first before they sell their existing home. Why? Well, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to sell your home and then move right into the next home because it's a really tight market. You don't always get your offers accepted. Sometimes it takes lots and lots and lots of offers on a lot of homes before you finally get one in contract, and you don't want to get it in contract with a contingency that you're going to sell your home first because you're not going to get it in contract otherwise. So what to do? So what many people do is they come to a company like Pacific Private Money because we can make you a loan to buy your target property, and if there's not enough, if you need a loan size that's at or near 100% of the acquisition cost, we can take your existing home as cross collateral. In other words, we can make you a loan on your target property and make it higher than our typical loan to value restrictions if there's plenty of equity in your existing home. Banks won't do that,
Right.
And so that's a very popular loan program. This particular client lives in a home that's worth about $500,000 right now, free and clear.
Okay.
And she wants to buy a home for about $550,000, and she wants to borrow $400,000. So if you do the math, a $400,000 loan on a $550,000 acquisition is about 73% loan to value. We don't like going that high. In fact, the person who brought us this, who's actually funding the deal, is the investor who wants to do this loan, is funding the deal. He prefers like 60% loan to value, and the borrowers ask for a lower than our average rate. Our average rate's 10%. They want a 9% rate, 8.9% I think it is. And so because her existing home is free and clear, we're going to cross it. So now we've got a $400,000 loan secured by basically $1 million worth of real estate. It's below 50% loan to value. We really like it. So there's nothing too unusual about that. What's unusual about it is that since we're crossing it with her existing property that happens to be in Alameda, she's going to put it on the market and sell it. Well, she doesn't want the sale proceeds to be used to pay down that $400,000 loan we're making her on her target property. Why? Because she wants to be able to do a rate term refi at a certain point in time when it's seasoned, which is approximately a year, and she believes she'll get a better loan program with a better rate if she leaves that $400,000 on there. So now here's the problem. Well, we don't want to leave that $400,000 loan on a $550,000 property. So what are we going to do? She has offered to put $400,000 of cash into an account that would be pledged with a collateral security agreement to Pacific Private Money, so that we could have not only the existing home that we're going, or the target home we're going to help her buy, plus a cash account, a liquid account of $400,000. So we haven't done all the paperwork. We've spoken to our legal counsel. They told us it could be done, and we have to go through all the minutiae. But it's just an example of being creative. There isn't a bank in the universe that will be as creative as that, and yet these are the types of things we can do. So if you're in an oddball situation and you're trying to figure out, you've got equity, the bank looked at you like you got two heads when you offered a suggestion as to how they might put the deal together or help you put the deal together. Yes, it costs more money. But the bottom line is you get the house you want. So if if you've got an interesting situation you want to run by us, it's just a phone call. We'll tell you literally over the phone if we think we can do it for you. It's not going to be an approval right then and there, but we might be able to tell you, heck yeah, we do stuff like that all the time. Let's take a closer look. Anyway, call us at Pacific Private Money. Best way to get a hold of us is just go to our website, pacificprivatemoney.com. Rob, you were chomping at the bit.
Will you take, we are somewhat familiar, we have some investors that will do pledged asset on residential stuff, and it involves the pledge agreement, et cetera. That made me think of something though. Would you, in the case of, let's say that the buyer, your borrower, was a business owner, would you take equity in a business or other forms of equity?
If we can get a collateral security agreement on something that we believe has value, but we would want real estate too. So we're and cash is, I think cash is easier to create a collateral security agreement that we can bite off
monitor and
rather than equipment or trucks or receivables.
Yeah, equipment seems to walk away.
And receivables, there are companies that specialize in financing receivables.
No, I can.
We're kind of not, and that's really expensive money. You want to pay 20% on money, just go ask a business lender about collateralizing your receivables. You'll be gulping pretty heavily.
That's interesting though, because I think that the concept of making the deal work with what the unique buyer or investor has an appetite for or willingness to do is something that our industry, residential mortgage lending, has gotten very far away from. We are always working towards this very strict standard of ability to repay and qualified mortgage and all, and then you open your eyes and you see that whole other world out there where you're trying to make a deal work for everybody through private capital. I think it's really interesting.
It is. Kathryn, did you bring some more stuff with you?
Which, by the way, Kathryn, I think we forgot.
We didn't. Yeah, that's right, on the last segment.
We gave great advice, but then they said, well, for the audience, I'm listening all the time.
Nothing
How do I get a hold of this lady if I have these tax
A
questions?
really smart CPA.
There you go. Yes, I work with Perrotti & Carrabba here in Larkspur, in Marin County. I can be reached at 415-461-8500. The other article I brought in was the 9 money moves to make the moment your credit cards are paid off. It's kind of been a theme I've been having over the last several months.
Yes.
It's just kind of early in the year we talked about New Year's resolutions and the financial resolutions over the last. You can break it up into resolutions that you should try to do each month. So this one I thought was an interesting one. One is tackling any other high interest debt. And what I want to bring up, and these are just kind of things I see over the course with my clients, is student loan debt. Yep. People have a tendency like, oh, I get the deduction. I have to remind them, there's limitations to that, and oftentimes, especially in the Bay Area, when you're making more than $100,000, you don't get that deduction. So you don't need to. You should not be seeing it as a loan that gives you much benefit at all. And nowadays, student loan interests are at least I'm seeing around 6-7%. Much less than credit card interest rate, but once you pay off that credit card, you should keep your eye on thinking about reducing that debt.
Good advice.
Good advice. The other one is assessing your emergency fund. What often happens, and you guys can speak to it too, is when you have cash, is where do you put it?
In that 1% bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Yes, exactly. It's earning so much interest. And it is important to have that, because what happens is if you don't have an emergency account, is that you then go put it onto a credit card and you've just lost a 22% interest after the particular rate of 0% for 6 months. But people often have a tendency not to think of that, and you have to think of interest as a way or as a form of income. For every time you pay interest, you've lost that amount of money, and you're very rarely are going to get a rate of return of 22%, guaranteed 22%.
Now, interest is Mark's friend.
Yes. Well, that's where it turns around, and that's where when you once you pay off the interest that you can kind of control, that credit card interest, then you can turn around and start investing, and where's the best, that's where it starts to work for you. And paying off the credit cards is obviously one where it works for you.
Sure. Where else can you get a guaranteed 18 to 20% return?
One thing I was going to say about that too, I mean, it's a great goal to be able to pay off your credit cards, and certainly anybody that's working towards that, keep doing it. The other thing I wanted to add though is when you have paid them down to zero, don't close them. Because I think a lot of people get into trouble when they try and manipulate their credit, and they think, okay, this card's gone, I hate these people, I've been paying them forever, it's now gone, I'm going to close you. When you do that, you remove your history. So if your payment history on that card has been painful but good, you know what I mean, you haven't enjoyed the experience of paying them interest, but you've done it, and you've made all your payments on time, don't cancel the card, because then you wipe out that part of your credit history.
Just
counts in your
don't use
FICO
the
score.
card.
Don't use the card, put it in a safe place and don't use it.
And that's
very good
recommendation
advice.
number 5. Stop using your card for a while, but don't close them.
There you go, yeah.
You got it.
You
And it
jumped
does,
on
and it has a huge impact also, I think, on when it comes to your FICO score, is your equity. They calculate your debt to equity.
Yep.
So the more,
Durham model.
and it still exists. And that is another one. Looking at your FICO score, seeing where it's at, seeing if there's any holes. Or, I just had a conversation today about credit card fraud. And it's not even just credit card fraud, it's just identity fraud.
Yeah.
Oh, I had 2 in last week for me. One from Sears, another one from Orbitz something or other.
Because of your fairly common name, or?
No, just somebody decided to open accounts in my name.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I
And
got turned
you
down
love it.
because I don't make $6 an hour. They needed at least $6 an hour to do it. Okay, here we go. We're going to do our thoughts for the day. The public have an insatiable curiosity to know everything except what is worth knowing, said Oscar Wilde. I think he's talking about the Kardashians. And Will Rogers said, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Very good.
Two
All
guys
right.
who had some great quotes.
Exactly.
Right
Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Good. That was action-packed.
Wow, it's action-packed.
Boom, boom,
I was riveted to my seat.
Yeah. Well, what I meant was
Hour 2.
we have